Hey guys, Zomb Phox here, and today, as you can tell, we are doing the first ever interview on the channel's history. I am here with Jake Milligan, better known as either USFL Cards or UFL Cards on Instagram and X. How are you doing today?
Good. How's it going?
It's going pretty good. I mean, like I said, this is going to be a fun interview. For those of you who don't know, Jake makes a lot of really great custom cards. He's gotten a lot of them signed by a bunch of players, and there's a lot of work you can check out, especially on Instagram. He posts a lot of it. So, with the first question is a pretty simple one. What got you into spring football?
Well, when I was growing up in Birmingham, there you go. I always kind of thought I love the idea of the original Birmingham Stallions having real football in Birmingham.
Hmm.
I always felt like Birmingham was kind of slept on, and I missed out on the XFL, and the CFL, the Barracudas. And so when the Birmingham Iron came, I was really excited because of Trent Richardson, and then I'm a 49ers fan, so Quentin Patton was there on the team as well. So I was super pumped for that. And then I was at the first game, and then on the very first play, Braden Bowman hurdled some guy, and I was sold. I was totally sold from that first play. Became a huge fan of Luis Perez, all those guys, and that's really what started it.
It's crazy to think how Luis Perez, like back then, was just this guy playing spring football, and now we look at him as just this spring football icon. And it all started with the Iron.
Yeah, seriously, the king of spring.
So, what happened when the AAF folded and went to the XFL and there was no team in Birmingham? Did you still pay a lot of attention to it, or not as much?
Not as much. Especially the 2020. I had been in an accident and wasn't able to follow very much. But when the USFL 2022 came back, I really jumped right back into it.
How many of the Stallions games did you go to?
How many Stallions came in
Hmm.
2022? I went to 36 of the 40 USFL games in 2022.
You go to all the games at Protective and miss some of the ones at Legion, or did you go to both of them?
Yeah,
Okay.
I went to Summit Legion, but not all.
Did you end up making it to the championship game that year in Canton?
No, I actually moved that week,
Mm,
so I wasn't able to do it. It was terrible timing on my part.
mm. So,
I haven't been to a championship game yet. I've been to
really?
the yeah, I've been to the conference championship games, but not the actual championship game.
I hate to say this, you didn't miss anything this past year. I mean, granted, you're a Stallions fan, you would have loved it, but
Yeah.
man, that game was something else. That was an experience. But you've been in this community, you're the card guy, and so I got to ask what got you into both collecting trading cards and making them?
So collecting trading cards, it's as far back as I can remember. I got my first set of cards when I was 4. But apparently before that, the story goes, my dad had some football cards on a shelf above the dryer. And when I was little, like in diapers, he said I would wait till I was trying to be sneaky. I would wait until he was taking a nap. And then I would drag a chair in there and I would crawl up on the chair, then crawl up on the dryer, and then pull down his cards and look at them. And he knew I was doing it because he gave them to me pretty soon after. But yeah, so collecting goes literally back farther than I can remember. And making them, uh, there's an app called the Rookies app on
Mm-hmm.
iPhone, and I started on that a few years ago as just simple, basic templates for some guys that didn't have cards, namely guys that played for the 49ers or a team that I liked and didn't have a card of them in that uniform. And then I started with that app as well. For the first card I made for the USFL was Victor Bolden Jr., 49er. And I took that to a game, and I didn't think you. I thought he was going to think it was stupid,
Yeah.
but here I could pull it out real quick.
Man,
It's
that
actually
he was
just
so good in 2022.
actually that card. You can see he signed it.
Nice. That was the first one you ever made?
Yeah, that was the very first one. I don't know if there you go, some focus, and just see just a basic, very basic
Mm-hmm.
back, and we went down there after it was when they played the Bandits, and we went down, and my friend Jordan and I were trying to get his attention, and he ran off the field and he went into the tunnel, and then all these kids around me, and then there's some adults as well close to the tunnel. They're like, "Who are you trying to get?" I was like, "Oh, he already went in there." But they're like, "Who is it?" I told them, and they yelled so loud. Everybody yelled collectively so loud that
Oh
he
my
came back
god.
out of the tunnel. Yeah, and he was so excited. So he asked me to make him some cards, so I did, and then I posted on Facebook, and then it took off. I met a friend of mine who well became a friend of mine. He was equipment manager for the Stallions that year. He saw it on Facebook, and so we started meeting every week. I made him some cards, and he was able to get all the cards to all the players. So that's how I really got into it. And then it expanded from there because the guys on the other teams are like, "I want cards," and of course I had to, and it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
So I mean, for 2022, especially since that's when you really started, would you say like about 40%, 50% of players you made at least one card for, lower, higher than that?
So everyone on the Stallions got one, and I have everyone that was on the roster in Birmingham minus two people I have a signed card of from that season,
Who are the
and
two?
almost sorry,
Who are the two that you didn't get?
Tyree St. Louis and Jeff Thomas. That's it. But I have everybody else, and almost everyone on New Jersey got one as well. So they started reaching out to me. It was funny because I was laying in bed one day and I got a text. It was like, "Hey, this is Luis Perez.
Oh my god,
How do I get some cards?" And I got a text, "Hey, this is DeAndre Johnson. How do I get some cards?" And I was like, "What?"
bro, that's wild.
um, yeah, and then probably 10 to 15 for every other team that year.
Man, that's you gotta love that.
Yeah, yeah, it's like a little kid and just so much fun.
Man, I feel like so many people who came back to spring football when the XFL came back in 23 missed out in that 2022 USFL season.
Mhm.
Watching Luis Perez, DeAndre Johnson, that Generals team was so fun.
It really was, yeah, and those guys are so nice. I still keep in contact with a lot of them from that year as well.
I would say that's probably my favorite thing about spring football is that you all like almost every single player is like humble. They're like love the fans. It's just a great atmosphere. I mean, I
Yeah,
remember at the 23 championship game, I was on the Maulers sideline when the game ended and the Maulers lost, and you still had so many players go to the fans, interact, take photos and stuff, and it was just a really cool feeling seeing all these guys doing that.
yeah. The 2023 Maulers to me was like also like the 2022 Generals, where they're just man, they're I don't know, just great guys. They're not too good for a fan like myself or anybody else. You know, you see Boogie out there playing with the kids in the parking lot and stuff.
I'm so
And
glad he's back in the league.
yeah, oh yeah, me too. Me too. Yeah.
So you already kind of answered the part of the third question about who the first player you made for. So in terms of who got signed, was it about the same? Stallions were the first to sign your cards, then it was all the other players, really?
Yeah. Yeah. It was the Stallions, then it was the Generals, then it was everybody else. And then the next year, I was able to get some guys on a lot to the guys on the Maulers and the Gamblers. So that kind of expanded that as well. The Breakers as well.
So even though they, went to actual stadiums that year for some of the teams, it really didn't affect you at all.
No, I some of the guys reached out and I was able to mail cards to them and then they passed them out to their team. They've been really good about that. And the NFL players would never do that. Never do it.
Yeah, I could see
This,
maybe some of the guys who never got cards that are like practice squad guys, but I
yeah,
couldn't imagine like giving cards to like Lamar Jackson to pass out.
yeah. No, it's a lot of fun though because these guys love it, especially guys like when I make like linemen or specialist cards. They're even if they do go to the next level, they are not likely to get cards. And everybody loves to see themselves on a card. I got a great note from one of the guys back. He said it was his dream to see himself on a football card, and it's like I know mine aren't real, they're just custom, but it made his day, and that made me really happy. So
You gotta love to see
it's
that.
yeah, it's great seeing the appreciation because I appreciate them. I mean, they bring us endless entertainment.
Hmm.
Super fans like us, we talk about it year round. We watch the games on repeat. So, I mean, I just I do it for free. I will
Yeah.
say that. I don't sell them. I mean, unless they want a ton of cards. Otherwise, I give them to them for free because I really appreciate what they do, and them taking the time to reach out to me as well is very much appreciated.
I mean, I mean, I know everybody talks about how much they get paid and stuff, but I mean, you're still going out there putting your body on the line for spring football for 10 to 12 games if you make the championship. I mean, you got to love them for grinding it out. I mean, that's what makes this league so great, all the
Oh yeah.
spring football. So, I mean, overall, with all the guys that you've done, about how many players around would you say you have like a really good relationship with?
Like a positive relationship, or guys that I could just reach out to and talk to at any moment.
I would say just a general positive relationship. Like, it might not be immediate, but like you'd be able to contact them or something.
Oh, a, a lot, a lot. Well over 100. I'll say that.
That many?
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. So, what when the XFL came around 2023, right? You were still, I'm assuming, heavily more in favor of the USFL, right?
Yes, I did watch 2023.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't make any cards. I do intend to for some of the UFL guys I've got to know that played in that league. But yeah, I did enjoy watching it.
Well, I'm kind of shocked. So, not a single card was made for the XFL that year.
No, no.
So, speaking about cards, I know I've talked to you a bit about it before, but what are your overall thoughts on the 2024 Upper Deck set that came out last month?
There are pros and cons for sure, for sure. I definitely wish that we had an old school box and packs to just rip.
I agree.
You know,
I hated that
that's
was
part of.
digital.
Yeah, I love ripping packs. It's just it's like people that love the smell of old books. I love the smell of a fresh pack of football cards. So, but they them being digital is kind of nice in the way that you can trade for what you want instead of having to wait for something to hit eBay
Yeah,
or something like that. So that is a pro. And then another con is the fact that the base are not physical
physical.
cards.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you get less cards.
I really hated that. Like, I get if you're making it digital, you want to make the, common cards not physical, but like not being able to get a base set really sucks.
Yeah, I agree.
Then the gold parallels.
Yeah, that's where the XFL 2020 and Tops AAF, yeah, definitely had a leg up, I think.
Especially since they had on card autographs, or every single card was on
That too.
card. I mean,
That too.
I do kind of regret not getting a ton of the XFL set because I got like a few boxes back in the day of the AAF set, but I kind of regret not getting any XFL sets. So that's kind of why I personally get more AAF stuff now than I do XFL. But I mean, those sets were really nice.
Yeah, I have the complete set for both. I'm eventually going to try to get the whole autograph sets, but it's a lot, so it's kind of slow moving.
So then, what has the overall talk been with the players that were in the upper deck set about them knowing, not knowing, all the things with that?
Oh, pretty much none of them knew. And they're so a lot of them knew it was coming because they had signed
Mm-hmm.
the autographs, right? But a lot of guys didn't sign, and so 36 of the 50 have signed cards, and those 14, I doubt they knew at all. But every single one that I posted, I had about a dozen, 12 to 15 people tell me they had no idea that this set was released.
Really?
No.
Even guys
And
that
nobody
signed?
got. Yeah, even the guys that signed. And then there's guys that signed autographs and then ended up not being featured in this set. So I'm not gonna say who, but
Mm-hmm.
there were several people who signed and were not featured. And then there's guys like Adam Rodriguez, Abram Smith, Jamar Smith that were on dual autos but didn't have their own card.
Yeah, I always
So
thought that was really weird. Like, you got Rodriguez on like that one random triple autograph, and then he's nowhere else in the set. And then
yeah,
I know at least the only one I can remember publicly is Boogie. We know he signed stuff back in 2022, if I'm not mistaken, and yet nothing really came of it.
yeah.
So I mean, it's definitely wild to think about how kind of bad they botched it. I mean, did you see the UFL finally actually publicly and addressed that that set came out?
About a month after it was released. Yeah.
Yeah, solid. I think it was about 4 days away from being a month out. They finally announced it, which is crazy to me. They took that long to talk about that.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the deal is. Upper Deck has not been great with communication. I do know that there have been some players that reached out for their game dated moments cards, which are the cards that were released each week. And don't get me wrong, I love those cards.
Hmm.
They are a little expensive. They're $6 per card, but you have a chance to pull a silver or a gold variant, and the golds are super rare. But these players didn't get copies either. And I know some players that reached out to Upper Deck about getting copies and nothing. So I had to get trade for extra copies to get them to them.
That's terrible.
Yeah. Upper, yeah, I don't really like the way that Upper Deck has been handling it. The cards are nice. Having, I am grateful to have cards, but I do feel like they should be giving cards to the guys.
Yeah,
And the
I was
box,
especially for like spring football, where like we talked about earlier, some of these guys never have had cards before. It is kind of messed up that they're not getting at least something.
well, they did it last year with the box set. I know they sent each of the players in the box set some cards. I don't know why nobody got anything this year, or even was like, "Hey, guess what? You're being featured in our set." They had no idea.
And then I mean the UFL still hasn't talked about the whole collectible exchange partnership either. Another drop the ball moment for them with all the game use stuff that you can get and all that.
Yeah, and that's directly from the UFL to them, so you would think it would have been mentioned.
Yeah, shame that we didn't get too much USFL or UFL stuff though in that collection.
Yeah.
So I know you've talked to people in the UFL, so say what you can. But what have you heard when it comes to expansion with the UFL?
Uh, Probably no more than anybody else, honestly. Just that Ohio is being strongly looked at, Louisville's being strongly looked at. One thing that I am just kind of putting together, this is based on nothing but gut, I guess, and based on just things that I have heard, but
Mm-hmm.
nobody actually knows, at least as far as I know, is the way that Memphis has been underperforming. I feel like if they are not sold soon, like in the next 8 or 9 months, I wouldn't be shocked if they move to Nashville.
Mm.
So we expand, but we have three new markets.
Yeah, I mean, especially with, I mean, Houston was like a massive disappointment, and it still outperformed Memphis last year. I mean, you had
Mhm.
that one game that was like under 6,000. I mean, when you're doing worse than the Vipers were doing in 23, that's bad.
Yeah, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I think Memphis averaged like 6,600 attendance.
I think that's about right. I think they had like one game that was okay in attendance, then every other one was just
Yeah,
abysmal. And it's
yeah.
just, I
I'm
mean, and that's despite Houston having the issue playing at Rice, which was probably the worst stadium any team was playing at. The whole Gamblers Roughneck situation, which they completely botched that, and just somehow Memphis was worse.
Yeah. So again, like I said, I haven't
Mm.
heard anything directly. I'm not in that loop, but that is a feeling that I get based on what I have heard.
So, what is or what has your relationship with the UFL or certain teams been outside of the Stallions and the Cards thing? Anything else, or
But the Stallions, but also the Roughnecks this past year. Now, I was looking at the roster when I was making cards at the beginning of the year, and I was like, I know most of these guys. It's unfortunate they didn't win more games. I was really pulling for them, but I was like, you know what? I'm just going to make a card for everybody on the team. So just to make it easy, I was like, maybe I could get some new connections that way.
mm-hmm.
Plus, it'd be fun. And so I did that, and I sent them down there. And one of the coaches reached out to me and invited me down. He asked if that was something that I wanted to do. I said, no, I want to work for the league, but not in that capacity. They wouldn't pay me to make cards anyway. They have upper deck for that.
Yeah.
So I went down there and I got to tour the facilities and meet everybody. And I could show this off. I got I got a practice ball they all signed. It's pretty cool.
Nice.
One of my favorite things, honestly. It's not just pretty cool. I love it. It was such an experience. So getting to go in there and uh, meet Coach Johnson and Lionel and all the players, all the coaches, get to kind of see a behind the scenes look of how it's ran, at least the team. That's that was definitely an experience.
Best
And I
experience in
haven't done
spring football
anything.
so far?
Huh?
Was that the best experience you've had with spring football so far?
Uh yes, yes, I would say so because I don't think too many people get to see behind that curtain. And I was very lucky and fortunate to have done that. I've had a lot of great experiences as well. I have met Moose a couple times, and he does have a set of my cards.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh, that's
he has
sick.
the whole set. It's the so last year's set. I can show you real quick. I ripped off tops. I did every single. It's there's a reel of it on my Instagram, but I did a USFL color matched version of every single tops design for football from 1955 to 2015, plus some bonuses. So like if you could see, some of them were signed, but he's got this whole set 55 through like there's some of the more modern ones. So they look just like the tops cards, just color matched.
And
And
and you even threw in the USFL set. I saw that.
I did. And actually, these are two of my favorites down here. These Ring of Honor. I don't know if you ever had these Ring of Honor cards.
I had like I think they made like a second generation one, and I had a couple of the Topps Chrome ones at one point.
Yeah.
Those are some
So,
nice ones.
so I did USFL championship game MVP cards of Victor Bolden and Dion Kane. But yeah, so Moose has a set of those. So I think that's pretty cool.
That's insane to hear. Gotta love that. So I know this might be a sort of Debbie Downer esque question, but with everything that's been going on this past off season, what is your biggest concern for the UFL heading into 2025?
The biggest concern for me is it's honestly, yeah, I would say fan participation in struggling markets and how do they get that fixed?
Mm.
You know, how do you fix Memphis? How do you get Arlington and Houston to perform better both on the field, in the stands, and on TV?
Because, I mean, really the only markets that you could say were very successful last year were St. Louis, obviously. I mean, a bad game for them is 30,000. But Michigan improved their attendance by like a couple thousand, according to Mike Mitchell and all that. And then, I mean, once you get past that, did really any other team do that well? I mean, San Antonio was okay, but
Birmingham and DC held steady. They didn't really have a drop, I don't think. And I do think that, especially in Birmingham, scheduling more night games is going to help
mm-hmm.
uh, because one, the tennis is going to go up. If you go to Birmingham and you go to Stallions games, there's nobody there during the day. It's cooking you. You go at night, it's pretty packed. And more people are used to watching football at night anyway.
Yeah, I hope
So
that the Friday night football ends up helping that out since that's like all but confirmed. I think the first game is a Friday night game, so hopefully that helps out a lot that we only have mainly night games with a few day ones. And we
I think it
avoid
will.
that 11 a.m. local time game in St. Louis that happened like twice last year. That's dude, I barely wake up at 11. If I don't have something I'm doing to the next day, I mean, I can't imagine to wake up at 10 o'clock to drive to St. Louis if I live there.
Yeah. No, I think they are doing things to correct and to improve engagement. And I've seen more marketing in the cities this off season, obviously, than last year. I know last year was kind of a disaster thrown together like day by day with
Yeah,
the
that
merger and
January
everything.
1st expand or January 1st announcement of the leagues merging.
Yeah,
That did not help.
yeah. So I guess I should say I'm not really concerned about anything major.
Yeah, I mean, I think Houston is going to definitely be better just because they're going back to TDECU. I mean, I think that's a massive upgrade over Rice.
Yeah,
Not having
I
to have
agree.
the Rice logo in the middle of your UFL game. I just I kind of agree with you. I think Memphis is the only one that's a genuine concern, but aside from that, I think that it should overall be much better next year. I mean, I don't see the Renegades losing like six straight one score games again next year to start like 0-6.
No. Yeah,
So,
I think on-field performance for Arlington will increase attendance alone.
especially since like the most recent reports say that Prez is more than likely going to return, which you love to see that.
Yeah.
So, is there anything else that you would want to share about either the UFL or your experiences doing cards and anything like that?
Nothing that I could think of. It's just it's a lot of work. It's a lot of fun. Uh it's just been a great time getting to meet the players and like getting shout outs online like during the championship game celebration from like Joe Tillery or Marla Williams posting my card, a picture of my card from the locker room at halftime.
Gotta
That's
love it.
funny. So yeah, it's just this was this year's. It's just some like art style cards for the team. Um, I guess I could show off my other favorite piece real quick,
hmm
and it's this was signed at the USFL Championship game this year
Nice.
by a lot of guys on the team, a lot of the three-time guys like Jordan Thompson, definitely one of the best stallions ever, and then it's got Adrian Martinez and Matt Corral, pretty much everybody you can think of. It's I got to get a nice case for it.
Man, I be
So
having to get cases for stuff.
yeah. My goal is to have the best spring football collection. So
I think
we'll
that's
see how it
a
goes.
pretty fun goal to have.
Yeah, I have like 500 autograph cards so far, so I think I'm on the way.
Have you gotten anything like game used from a player at a game or something yet?
No, I have not. I've tried, but I haven't yet.
Mm.
And I really don't like asking for that because at the game I feel like kids should be able to get gloves and towels and stuff like that. If someone wanted to give me something after the fact, I would absolutely take them up on it. But um, I don't like to be pushy at the games to get to the field because I know I could get most of the stuff, signed later.
hmm
So it is fun though watching them sign for everybody. You don't see a lot of that in the NFL or even at college, but these guys they stop and they will sign until the last fan is taken care of.
Yeah, I mean,
Jake Bates was great with that. I remember Bo Scarborough was very popular in Birmingham, and he wouldn't stop signing until everyone was done with him.
I don't know how the stadiums at Protective or Houston worked, but at the championship game, the security at the dome actually were escorting people out while there were still players signing stuff for them. That's how long they were signing for stuff, which is
Yeah,
just you gotta love it.
Legion Field would do that, but Protective did not. Protective was very good about it.
I love
Legion
that
Field,
classic.
I actually had to sneak onto the field just to get a picture with one of the guys because they were trying to kick us out.
Oh my god,
But I was wearing some team issued gear that someone had given me, so they let security actually let me through. I couldn't believe it.
they thought you were a player.
Yeah, so the one security guy stopped me. No, not a player, but I guess they thought I worked for them.
Yeah,
Once I didn't have a lanyard or anything. One security guy stopped me, and then another guy yelled, "Hey, he's fine," and let me through. So I, I was trying to get a picture with Christian McFarland. This was back in 22 at Legion. Yeah.
was it back in 2022
Like,
where you had that classic moment? I think it was Gates or somebody like that kid had that sign that'll give you $20 for a pair of gloves. You remember that one?
I do remember that. I don't know when that was though.
That was a classic moment. I loved watching that one
Uh,
on TV. I definitely
yeah,
thought that was a good moment.
they've given out their share of gloves. I know that they're great with fans.
It's just it's like we talked about earlier. Spring football players, they love the fans,
Hmm.
and you gotta love that. And I mean, we're finally gonna get the schedule in like 2 weeks for the upcoming season. I hope.
I hope so.
Yeah, it would be terrible if we get that. Hey, we're gonna have the schedule released on the 29th and 31st, and then just we don't get it.
I don't think that'll happen. They seem much more put together and prepared this offseason.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely gonna be nice. Cause I mean, last year's schedule didn't come out to like what, early February.
Yeah, it was late. It was late. I remember everybody was trying to make plans, and it was very difficult to make the plans. Was it Michigan? Did theirs come out late, or were there
Michigan had
tickets?
the
Like,
ticket issue, and Houston. Both
okay.
of them had their issues with the tickets, and then Houston got fixed pretty quick, and then Michigan was like, it took like 3 weeks late to get it. So like, you couldn't buy single game tickets or something till like a month before the season started,
Yeah,
which was terrible. But
yeah,
thankfully, they're getting all that fixed since we're already confirmed back to Ford Field and all that.
yeah. I don't foresee any issues this offseason.
You gotta love it. Well, I want to thank you for doing this interview. I hope this was a fun time.
Yeah, it was my first time on camera. Hopefully, it went okay.
I think it was pretty good. It was definitely cool to have you. Thank you again. Again, if you want to follow him, I'll have the links to his social medias in the description below. Again, he's made some really nice cards, so feel free to give him a shout on any platform and go follow him. And as always, guys, have a great night.